Yeah, this is all. Okay. Jayanilo prema dhanna karuna prachur Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Chaya Thakur Kaha Mora Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanata Kahadasa Raghunata Patita Pavan Kahamora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kavira Eka Kale Kota Gela Goranatara Pashane Kuti Bo Mata Anale Pashibo Koranga Gunera Nidhi Kota Gele Pamo Se sabba sangira sange je koi lo bila Se sangana paya kande narotamada Anje anilo prema dhanna kaduna prachu Heno Prabhu Kota Gela Chaya Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Vaishnav Thakur, Jaya Vaishnav Thakur. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasa Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishna Das Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. So, We have one disappearance and one appearance today. So we'll read the disappearance first. And that is Sri Ramchandra Kaviraj. This is from the Samadhi's book. Ramchandra Kaviraj, the son of Sri Chiranjiva Sain, an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya, appeared in Sri Khanda. Quote, Ramchandra Kaviraj was especially earnest, beautiful, intelligent, energetic, and enthusiastic, said one biographer. Although married, Ramchandra and his wife, Ratanala, had no material attachments. They stayed fully engaged in the loving service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They had no children. With steadfast devotion, he served his spiritual master, Srinivasa Acharya. In Vrindavan, Sri Jiva Goswami gave him the title Kaviraj, King of Poets. He wrote the following beautiful verse. Seems to be 2 verses. Prakashila Mahaprabhu Hare Krishna Mantra Premera Vadhara Kari Balila Sangsara Anda Avadi Yate Kare Parsha Bindu Na Padila Mukhe Ramachandra Das. Sriman Mahaprabhu is so kind that he manifests the nectar of the Hare Krishna Mantra. The holy name will free all souls from the cycle of birth and death, from lower planets, from hell. The holy name will give one a taste of divine love for Radha Madhava. Whether blind or dumb, anyone can, even if blind or dumb, anyone can drown in the flood of prema. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has filled everyone with love of God. But Ramchandra Das is so unfortunate that he couldn't even taste a drop of that nectar. Close quote. Ramchandra Kaviraj was one of the 8 Kavirajas, famous poet disciples of Srinivasa Acharya. Ramchandra wrote Smarana Darpana, Smarana Chamatkara, Siddhanta, and Siddhanta Chandrika. He preached widely and initiated many disciples. Narottam Das Thakur and Ramchandra lived together as best friends. Narottam Das wrote, Doya Kore Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas, Ramachandra Sange Mage Narottama Das. O Srinivasa Acharya Prabhu, please give me your mercy. Narottam Das always prays for the association of Ramachandra Kaviraj. In the form of Karna Manjari, he serves Srimati Radharani in Braj Leela. His samadhi is in Dira Samira Kunj next to Srinivas Acharya. And finally we have Gopal Bhatta Goswami's appearance day. Sorry about that. Too many. Okay. Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the son of Vyankata Bhatt, a Sri Vaishnava Brahmin, appeared in Sri Rangam, South India. Lord Chaitanya once stayed 4 months in his home and converted the family to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. A mere boy at this time, Gopal personally served the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu treated him affectionately, giving his remnants and blessings to become an acharya. During his 4-month stay, Lord Chaitanya developed a close friendship with Vyankata Bhatt, which Krishna Das Kaviraj describes as Sakya Ras. But Vyankata Bhatt is his father, Gopal Bhatta's father. Freely conversing with each other, they would often laugh and joke together. One day, in a humorous mood, Lord Chaitanya asked Vyankata, why does your worshipable goddess of fortune, Sri Lakshmi Devi, abandon the happiness of Vaikuntha and her service to her Lord Narayan? Why does she go to Vrindavan and perform severe austerities to attain the association of my Lord Gopal, the cowherd boy of Braj? And Venkata answered, I can't understand these mysteries. Oh, Prabhu, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Sorry, what's paraphernalia? Vyankata said, I can't understand all these mysteries, but you, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, can surely enlighten me. Lord Gauranga said, Lord Krishna has one special feature, quality. He attracts the hearts of everyone with his personal conjugal love, madhurya. Lord Narayan only has 60 transcendental qualities, but Sri Krishna has 64. And all of them are saturated with his unique quality of madhurya, honey sweetness. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, attracts the mind of Lakshmi Devi, but Lord Narayan can never attract the minds of the Braja Gopis. Continuing, Lord Chaitanya said, in Braj Leela, Krishna, disguised as Lord Narayan, once appeared before the gopis who were searching for Krishna. Seeing Lord Narayan, the gopis said, "Oh, Lord Narayan, pranams. Where did Krishna go? Did you see?" By following the gopis who spontaneously love Krishna without awareness of his godhood, one can attain Krishna. The Shrutis worshipped Krishna in the ecstasy of the gopis. This is the personified Vedas. Following in their footsteps, they received, in the gopis' footsteps, they received gopis' bodies to join Krishna in the rasa dance. But Lakshmi Devi wanted to enjoy Krishna, but retain her spiritual form as Lakshmi Devi. Without following the gopis' footsteps, no one can attain Krishna. Close quote. After receiving initiations from Sri Prabodhananda Saraswati, he doesn't mention here it was his uncle, Gopal Bhatta came to Vrindavan and became a dear friend of Sri Rupa and Sanatan Goswamis. He did bhajan in Vrindavan for 45 years, mostly at Radhakund. On pilgrimage, he obtained 12 Shalagram Shilas. Later, the Damodar Shila manifested himself as the beautiful Radha Raman deity. By the way, there's some confusion sometimes. Radha Raman, they think that, I remember I was working on the deity book, they're called Darshan, and there's a Radha Krishna deities, and the devotees had been worshipping them as Radha Raman. Radha Raman is a name for Krishna. Raman, the enjoyer of Radharani. I tried to get them to change the name, but they wouldn't hear of it. Anyway. He stands alone. Yes, he's alone in the temple there. Later, the Damodar Shila manifested himself as the beautiful Radha Raman deity. Since 1542, Radha Ramanji has been worshipped with pure devotion following precise Shastric rituals. 1542. That's over 500, almost 500 years. Lord Chaitanya ordered Gopal Bhatta to write a book to check the spread of pseudo-loving rasas and negligence of Vaidhi Bhakti. In collaboration, this book needs editing, in collaboration with Sri Sanatan Goswami, he compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilas, the authorized book explaining the ritual and devotional practices of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. He also wrote Satkriya Deepika and the outline for Sri Jiva Goswami's Shad Sandarbhas. He eternally served Srimati Radharani as one of her Ashtamanjaris, Gunamanjari. His samadhi is within Radha Ramanaji's temple compound behind the appearance place of the deity. Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami initiated Gopinath Pujari Goswami, a lifelong brahmachari who served Radha Ramanji for his whole life. Gopal Bhatta Goswami initiated Srinivasacharya and many other stalwart Vaishnavas. Shri Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Ramchandra Raj Ki Jai. And now, proceed with the class. Forgive me, this paraphernalia. Here we go. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Second, sorry. Okay. Oh, got the delay. Okay. On this 10th? 11th. On this 11th day of January 2023, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the 6th canon, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, 4th chapter, the Hamsa Guhya Prayers, text number 14. Yaha samutpatitam deha akashan manyum ulbanam atma jigyasaya yatchet sagunan adivartate yaksamutpatitang deha akashan manyumulbanam atma jigyasaya yatchet Sagunan ativartate. Yaksamutpatitang deha. Akashan manyamulbanam. Atmajigyasaya yachet. Sagunan ativartate. Yaksamutpatitang deha. Akashan manyamulbanam. Atmajigyasaya yachet. Sagunan ativartate. Yaksamutpatitang deha. Akashan manyamulbanam. Atmajigyasaya yachet. Sagunan ativartate. Yaksamutpatitam deha. Akashan manyam ulbanam. Atmajigyasaya yachet. Sagunan ativartate. Yaksamutpatitam deha. Akashan manyamulbanam. Atmajigyasya yachet. Nanativa. Yaha. Anyone who. Samutpatitam. Suddenly awakened. Dehe. In the body. Akashat. From the sky. Manyum. Anger. Ulbanam. Powerful. Atmajigyasaya. By inquiry into spiritual realization or self-realization. Yachet. Subdues. Saha. That person. Gunan. The modes of material nature. Ativartate. Transcends. Translation. So this is Soma continuing to speak to the Pachetas who are trying to burn down all these trees. And one who inquires into self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger, which awakens suddenly in the body as if falling from the sky, transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. Purport. When one becomes angry, he forgets himself and his situation. But if one is able to consider his situation by knowledge, one transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. One is always a servant of lusty desires, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and so forth. But if one obtains sufficient strength in spiritual advancement, one can control them. One who obtains such control will always be transcendently situated, untouched by the modes of material nature. This is possible only when one fully engages in the service of the Lord. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 14:26, you can chant together if you know it, or you have a device. Manchayo vabhicharena bhakti-yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyai kalpate. That's a misprint there. Reading it. Anyway, it says brahma bhuya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the spiritual platform. Close quote. By engaging one in devotional service, the Krishna consciousness movement keeps one always transcendental to anger, greed, lust, envy, and so forth. One must perform devotional service because otherwise one will become victimized by the modes of material nature. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, when I first read this pastime back, I don't know, 1973, 74, probably, I was a little surprised that the Pachetas had yielded to this anger, this rage, and were burning all these trees. because one of the first books that I proofread as a worker for the BBT back in Brooklyn in the 70s was the fourth canto. And in the fourth canto, in chapter 24, the Prachetas, who were the sons of King Prachanabarhi, they were sent out to become purified because he wanted them to create the praja. He wanted them to be progenitors. And so they were sent out to become purified through austerities. And they encountered Lord Shiva. It wasn't an accident. Lord Shiva gave his darshan to them. And he taught them the song called the Song of Shiva. And I remember when I first started, proofreading this, this is the best prayer for getting liberation, for attaining pure devotion. I said, oh, this is great. I started memorizing it. It's about 50 verses long. I didn't get that far, maybe 5-6 verses. It's long. But it's a prayer of pure devotion. And it said that this is the best prayer for worshiping the Lord, and it's very and the benefits are given at the end. And one of the verses I'm going to share with you has especially impressed me. And the Prachetas, just to give you a preview, the Prachetas are then sent to perform severe austerities underwater for 10,000 years to chant this prayer. So here's one of the ones they chanted: Padasharat Padma Palasha Rochisha. So Lord Shiva is teaching them this. He said, my dear Lord, meaning Narayan, Vishnu, your two lotus feet are so beautiful that they appear like two blossoming petals of the lotus flower that grows during the autumn season. Indeed, the nails of your lotus feet emanate such a great effulgence that they immediately dissipate all the darkness in the heart of the conditioned soul. My dear Lord, kindly show me that form of yours which always dissipates all kinds of darkness in the heart of a devotee. My dear Lord, you are the supreme spiritual master of everyone. Therefore, all conditioned souls covered with the darkness of ignorance can be enlightened by you as the spiritual master. So, it's a beautiful verse, and there's many other beautiful verses in this prayer. It's quite long, as I mentioned. So the Prachetas were chanting this. They were sent forth by Shiva to go and perform their austerity, which was pretty austere, 10,000 years underwater, chanting this mantra. And then they get the darshan of the Lord. He actually appears underwater, if I recall. And so then they come out. But with all of that purification, they still yield to anger, just like as it described very graphically in this verse. And just like descends out of the sky, seemingly out of nowhere, and suddenly you're in this rage, and you're like a different person, right? It's like this is the idea that it transforms you. There's in that famous verse, Dhyayato Vishayan Pungsas. First is you're kind of meditating in the objects of senses, then you become attached, then you become lusty for it, obsessed, and then when that's frustrated, you go crazy and you become angry. You do things that you would never do before. This is the progression. So somehow they yielded to anger. Now it was admittedly within the realm of their wanting to do their duty, because they're now in charge of the world, but everything become overgrown because there was no king. Prachanabarhi had retired many years before. So the vegetation had taken over, So what happened? Well, I'm not going to speculate. But somehow they were no longer completely absorbed, mamshyo vibhicharina, in the devotional service. And so Soma came down, right? The father of the trees, the moon, the god of the moon who nourishes all the plants. And he's more or less chastising them. And he's, says, one who inquires self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger, which awakens like in the body like as it falling from the sky, transcends the influence of the modes of material nature. So somehow or other, they have been affected by the modes of material nature. Now they will, of course, stop their activities, and he gives them the Maricha, I think her name is, the daughter of the trees, and he marries her. All of them marry her, and somehow together they start propagating the praja. So that's an interesting phenomenon. But what I think we can take away from this as one of the instructions for ourselves is that this verse from the Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada quotes, Mam Chiyoga Bichari Bhakti Yoga Sevate, one who is Advyabichari Bhakti, which means undeviating, and it says not falling down in any circumstance or not failing in any circumstance, can transcend the modes of nature and attain the Krishna. So that when we become slack in our sadhana, and it's not avyabhichari, and this is not uncommon, especially on the early stages of sadhana bhakti, then the modes of nature can affect us, and that's a dangerous position, because then you can become angry at one of your godbrothers or seniors, and you'll say something or do something, and then you may regret it like anything, but it'll be a serious offense. And it'll have a very deleterious effect on your devotional service. So this idea of becoming steady in our sadhana, so that we're constantly have some protection against the effect of the modes of nature. This is the Kali Yuga, after all. We're surrounded by modes of passion and ignorance, people and influences coming from all directions through the ether and everything. So it's a danger at every step. And for the devotee, the greatest danger is that he or she loses the self-control and comes under the sway of lust or anger, which can be extremely destructive. So there's a certain warning in this whole pastime. But there's also the instruction that if we are practicing sincerely, then we have assets. In other words, Krishna is favoring us. He wants us to progress, and so there are seniors who we can consult before we do something crazy. In other words, for guidance, we said, my sadhana has become weak or whatever. Please instruct me. Please give me some, mercy, and in this way, take shelter of the wonderful gifts that Srila Prabhupada has given, which is basically the society. And the greatest gift of all of us is books. These books are, Srila Prabhupada is speaking to us. Like I listen to a lecture every day, as I'm getting ready, and I'm just going through one after another, Bhagavatam lectures, Gita lectures, other lectures, wonderful on the Nectar of Devotion. There's a few on the CC. And it's such an important aspect of my sadhana. To hear Srila Prabhupada every day, and now I've been to Sutra so many times, some are familiar, and he's quoting verses that I'm familiar. But that is available to everyone, both audio, but especially through his books, which he took so much care to prepare, precisely to instruct his disciples and those who can become his disciples. Because the words of the pure devotee, the Acharya, are very, very powerful. There's this one famous verse in the fourth canto, where the Prabhupada is praising the very sound of the voice of the Acharya is in touch with the lotus toenails and lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore it's saturated with the saffron mercy particles. And if you hear that voice, what to speak of, the voice and the words and meaning, then that's a very purifying force. So the point is, every day we need to take advantage of the gifts we've been given and really be grateful. I point this out again and again. If you're fortunate enough and determined enough to attend Mangalarti, then the first words that you sing, Samsara Dhava Anadalita Loka Tranaya, is the spiritual master is delivering the people who are suffering in this forest fire of birth and death, of samsara. How? By like a cloud of mercy. He's raining down his words, he's raining down his instructions, his personality, everything. And that can save us from that forest fire by inspiring us to take up the process of chanting and the process of devotional service, so that we're not simply victims. Without the shelter of the instructions and the process of devotional service, we're just victimized by the Kali Yuga. There's no way of counteracting. The influence is so powerful at every step, and we can see all around us. This world is like, it's not just the human beings that are causing such havoc. I mean, they have, but because of all the sin and all of these things, the very weather, the gods, the threefold miseries, they're also under control of Krishna's representatives. I mean, the weather, I've been here for over 30 years, and it's definitely changed. It's just, and not for the better. I mean, now there's some storms. Okay, no more drought. But if it keeps happening, what about the floods? They're also going on. The heat and the drought, it's predicted. It's supposed to come at the end of Kali Yuga. Is this the end of Kali Yuga? My God, 427,000 more years? I don't know. But the point is, we have a great chance of getting out of all of that. And while we're in it, while we've got to live in this environment, using all our facilities for becoming advanced in devotional service and giving devotional service to others, which is also the best way to advance. Krishna says, "There's no one more dear to me than he who is giving my mercy to others." So the Bhagavatam is so rich here, and it's, but and Prabhupada's purports. He's always giving us these wonderful lessons. One must perform devotional service because otherwise one will become victimized by the modes of material nature. What could be more obvious that? How do we get free of the thrall of the modes of nature? Daiviyesha gunamayi mamamaya dodotjaya mameve papadninte maya metantadantite. That Maya is composed of these the modes of nature, and it's my nature, my divine nature. Why is this nature divine? Because it's connected to Krishna, and it's composed of these three modes. And Prabhupada makes a wonderful point in that purport in the Gita that the gunas kind of also means ropes. We're kind of tied by those ropes. Someone who's completely under the thrall of the modes of passion and ignorance, it practically lost his free agency. It's just one thing after another that it becomes so inauspicious and difficult. But if you can begin to practice devotional service, you can rise up out of those modes. It's right there in that, of course, the Bhagavad Gita. And I always think of those verses near the end of the lesson in chapter 2 of the first canto. Shinvatam sukata Krishna punya shavana kirtana riddhandaksto yabadhani vidanoti suritsatam. Krishna himself in the heart, when he understands that this living entity, this person, is hearing about me from the right source, has a taste for hearing. Shinvatam sukata Krishna. Krishna is the subject of the sentence. Those sounds which are punya shavana kirtana. Just by hearing and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and so many other shastric sounds, you become pious. You're no longer a demon. Punya shavana. Riddhantaksto. Krishna is in the heart, the super soul. He's listening. He's listening to me. Then abhadrani vidanoti. He's cleansing away the abhadras, the inauspicious things in the heart, which are these tendencies to become attached, to become under the sway of the modes of passion, and to become angry. You become more controlled, more saturated with the mode of goodness, and that's the next verse. Nashta prayashu badreshu. When most of those abhadras, those inauspicious things, are cleansed from the heart, just like Chaitodarpana Marjana. Nityam, how? By the process of serving the two Bhagavats, the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. They both have to be served. Nitya, regularly. Nityam Bhagavat says, Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. By serving this Uttama Shloka, he is glorified in the best of songs. One becomes fixed in goodness and even pure goodness. So, and what's the result? Then it's exactly pertinent. Tada radas tomo bhava kama lobhadayaschaye cheta etan avadam stitam satve prasidati. Then tada radas tomo bhava, the modes of passion and ignorance and their concomitants, lust and greed. He doesn't mention anger, but that's also one of them, obviously. You're no longer troubled by those because you're fixed on a higher platform of goodness. Stitam satve prasidati. So this is what we're trying to do. It's a whole reformatory, purifying process. And then you find if there's some ashram life, temple life. There's periodically things happen that make you angry. Why did someone steal my maha or whatever? I remember when I went to India, I got very upset because my shoes were stolen. It was my first trip. Anyone who goes knows it. Then you learn the trick to separate the shoes so they're not temporary. But I became angry, but I'm in the Dham, Hare Krishna, I get another pair of shoes, But if something is taken or some insult is given or not enough honor is given to you, then there's a danger that you become angry and you lose it. But if you're chanting nicely and you're in devotional service, it's devotees, you can let it roll off your back, So that's a great one of the benefits of being strict in one sadhana is that you become tolerant, become more tolerant, because as long as you can practice devotional service and you're feeling the nectar of serving, then you can go through so many austerities. And indeed, those austerities become a source of pleasure because, Krishna sees, they're really trying hard, wonderful book distributors to serve me. So they're experiencing the nectarine of bhakti, and you become extremely tolerant, titikshava karunika. Kapila Dev in the third canto, he's giving the qualities of a devotee, of a sadhu. He's encouraging his mother. He says, what's the need? Why do we need to associate with sadhu? So he gives it, prasangam majanam pasham atmana kavayo vadu sahesha sadhu shukato moksha dwaram abhavatam. Is that the powerful attachments that we develop, just ordinary life in the material world with no bhakti or anything, they're like very strong ropes, ajanam pasham. But the intelligent soul knows, atmana kavayo vadu, so that same attachment, when turned to the sadhus, he doesn't say right away to Krishna, but to the sadhus, opens the doors to liberation. Liberation, don't forget, liberation means, first of all, liberation or freedom from all of this attachment to the material world. And the Mayavadis make the big mistake, I got to kill that attachment. No, you have to purify the attachment. You have to turn the attachment to Krishna. Then it becomes wholesome. Otherwise, to become detached from everything and think you merge into the Brahman, that's not natural. You fall down eventually. So then the next question is, who is the sadhu? Famous verse, those who know it. Titikshava, karunika, suridak sarvadehinam, ajata shattavak shanta, sadhavak sadhabhushana. Notice that phrase, ajata shattavak. He has no enmity, no anger toward anyone. Who displayed that in the greatest degree? Prahlad, greatest sadhu. He never became angry at his father. And even when his father was killed, he prayed to Nrsingadev, all right, you want to give me a boon? He said, I'm not a merchant. I'm not doing business with you. I don't need anything from you. First he complained that Nrsingadev was tempting him. I'm born into a family of demons. Don't tempt me, my lord. So he said, okay, if you want to give me one boon, then please, deliver my father. Forgive my father for all his torturing of me and everything. So don't worry. So many relatives, so many generations backwards and forward, we lead, And then he asked for one other boon. Does anyone remember what it is? Yeah. I forget the exact verse, but he said, please, in my heart, let material desires never take root. That's his other, What a boon. All right, give me this planet, that planet, and so this is a sign of a great devotee, simply satisfied with the service of the Lord. So this titikshava, this tolerance, this is somehow the Prachetas had lost that. They weren't tolerant, and so they became angry, and it was endangering the whole project of they're ruling the earth and everything. And so Soma came down and set him straight. So these qualities of a sadhu are really qualities of a devotee. This becomes clear. Titikshava karunika. If you're going to be merciful to others and give them bhakti, then you have to be tolerant. Ask the book distributors. If they're intolerant, they're not going to distribute many books. What do you mean you don't want any book? That's not going to work. You can't become angry, You become merciful, you figure out a way to pull out, the best of everyone. So that's a great art. Suridak sarvadehinam, the friend of every living entity. Just like devotees, I remember when it gets hot, sometimes the bugs get in the temple, and they start walking. Watch out. This bug, you don't want to step on the bug because people are going around Tulsi or whatever, where everyone's sitting and figuring out how we can take them out and put them out in the garden. So that's, is one evidence of that. But more important is seeing that everybody is suffering And somehow, if we can attract a few people to Krishna to take a book and get association of Prabhupada and hear these words, it could be to their eternal benefit. That's real karunika, mercy. A Surya is a friend of all, has no enmity or enemies, and therefore, because of all of this, no material desires, no enmity, shanta, peaceful. Only a real devotee can have peace in heart. Sadhavak sadhabu, these are ornaments. And how do you get to that point? The next verse, Maya ananyena bhavena bhaktin kurvandi yajidam. The same verse, mamchiyo vibhicharena, practically identical. Mamchiyo, this is Kapila Deva speaking as the personality of Godhead. Mamchiyo, Maya ananyena bhavena bhaktin kurvandi yajidam. One has to be determined, because we're all conditioned, and there's always that pull of our conditioning, and to slack off. So one has to be firmly fixed. Drida vrata, dridham. Mat krite chakta karmanas chakta swajana bandhava. That for my sake, this devotee who's becoming a sadhu will give up any activity that is detrimental to devotional service, and even will give up association with friends and family if that is also a serious impediment to their devotion, And so what do? Okay, now they're giving this up, Marashaya kata mrishta shunvandi katayandicha. They're always hearing and chanting the very sweet vibrations about me, glorifying me together. That's what Sankirtan is. You chant, I hear, I chant, you hear the holy name. Plus all these wonderful vibrations Prabhupada has given us. Prabhu, do you want to hear a nice shloka from the Bhagavatam? Oh yeah, let's read this. Let's read Krishna book. Enter into. That's the best association. And Katamis Shrinvanti Katayanti Cha. And because they was absorbed in hearing and chanting, remembering, the Pandivavadas Tapa Naitan Mangata Chetasa. They don't feel the impinging of the threefold miseries like ordinary people. And the perfect example is Prahlad again. That he was able to and all the great acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, so much he underwent for preaching, that he was completely fixed and he was able to tolerate, And then the famous verse, Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti ritkana rasayana katata joshanana shubha bhagavatmani shadharati bhaktaranu kamishati. So these prachetas are underwater chanting this prayer, but somehow the effect of this Satam prasangan verse did completely act on them. They got angry. Anyway, they show their teaching by it. But this is such an important verse. This is a description of what the Hare Krishna movement is about, why Prabhupada started it. He explains that in Nectar of Instruction. They started this movement so that people would have a facility to come together and glorify Krishna. And that's what these ashram and the temple. You can see this is an oasis for people who are interested in Krishna. There's some wonderful people come on Sundays and other days. So Satam Prasangan, I studied this, the same word, he starts off this Ashtaka, there's 8 verses. Prasanga Majaram, the powerful attachment for the material things are like holding us down, like the ropes, but the same word, the same intense attachment and its association can be there for the sadhus. And that's what Satam Prasangan. Very meaningful and association with devotees. Mama virya samvido. What are you going to hear? My glories. Kapila Deva then speaking again. Mama virya samvido. Bhavanti ritkana rasayana kata. This kata is just like a life-giving elixir, rasayanam, for the ears and the heart. It awakens the soul. And Prabhupada, that's what he was doing wherever he went. He's speaking about Krishna. He's pouring down that elixir. Mama virya sam bhavanti ritkana rasayana tad joshanat ashu abhavargavartmani. And then very quickly, following this process of collective glorification and service of Krishna, which is Sankirtan, which is this movement, very quickly, abhavargavartmani, this path to liberation, what develops? Shraddha, rati, bhakti, anukamishati. Step by step, your faith is nourished. That's the foundation of everything. Faith in the process of devotional service, in the spiritual master, in Krishna, and faith that Krishna can empower you to overcome your difficulties so you can actually practice it. Many devotees think, yeah, I still believe everything, but I don't think that I can do it because I'm too conditioned and too attached. That means you're not in faith in Krishna. That he can purify such that you be rid of these, very powerful abhadras. So Shraddha, Rati, Bhakti, and attraction for Krishna, and Bhakti. Bhakti here means prema bhakti, step by step. And then the last two verses, I won't go into detail, but he says, thus following this process, one gets bhakti increasing more, and your vairagya increases. Vairagya is an essential thing. Vairagya means less and less attachment for material sense gratification. You can actually say no, or come to the point of just be disgusted, like Yamunacharya. This is, how did that come up? Forget that. It makes think about sex life. So by practicing this, and then he says, I forget the word now, but the last line of the verse says this easiest process of yoga. You don't have to go to the Himalayas, you don't have to go to this, perform severe austerities. Just come together, hear the words, from the lips of the spiritual master, the Shastra, and glorify together, and take the process seriously with a straw in your teeth. Don't be proud. Take the process nicely, and you can experience the highest levels of bhakti and go home back to Godhead at the time of death. So this is the program for the human being. Right at the beginning, in the first canto, Prabhupada always quoted this verse, the Narada Muni's instructions to Vyasadeva on writing the Bhagavatam. Most of the Bhagavatam, the first canto talks about how the Bhagavatam came to be. So he says, Tyak vasva dharmam charanam bhajang hare, bhajana bhakto tapate tato yadi. Is that if someone gives up his duties, material duties, and in varnashram or whatever, and takes to bhajan, to worshiping Krishna, but fails, doesn't actually complete the course, where is there any loss? We should really be convinced of this. Nehabhi krimanashasti, there's no loss or diminution in this process. So we should be really determined to make as much advancement as possible in this life, and if possible, go back to Godhead. But if we don't be discouraged, because you'll be able to finish it next life. Sorry, I got this, something happening here. So then the next verse, tasyaiva heto prayateta kovida. Now then he says, the rest of the verse says, but if one very nicely performs all his duties in varnashram, but has no assets in devotional service, what does he gain? He's going to have to come back again in the next life, and who knows what will happen. So therefore, one should strive. This word yateta, prateta comes up again and again, both in the Gita and in the Bhagavatam. We have to strive with determination because we're so conditioned. Therefore, one should strive for that which you cannot gain from going from Brahmaloka down to Patadaloka. In other words, you should strive for the transcendental goal, going back to God. Because your happiness and your pleasure and pain have already programmed in from your previous life. There's no point in spending all your life trying to get free from suffering and trying to enjoy sense gratification. It's already plugged in. You got a certain amount. But what you should strive for is that what isn't plugged in, and that is going back to Godhead. So, and he's saying to Vasudeva, if you have not completely written a book that delineates wholly and solely this process of devotional service and glorifies Krishna. Therefore, write the Bhagavatam, sit in meditation, and that's how the Bhagavatam came. So that's what I'm getting from this verse, is that, yes, the Prachetas, of course, they eventually will do their duty and do everything right, but somehow or other, they allowed the mode of passion and ignorance to take over, and they lost it. And it's described, this can descend upon you if you're not protected by strict devotional service. Mamchiyo Vebhicharina. And anger is very dangerous. So we can be protected if we're very determined in our sadhana. Any questions, comments? Sorry, it's a little late. Okay. Our ethereal friend is not here today.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, you are here. All right, Vijay, you're on.
Yes, Dravida Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you very much. You're very kind. Prabhu, in the translation to the text you chose for today, text 14, I
Yes.
see that Soma, because this is Soma speaking to the Prachetas, no?
Yes, he is. That is.
So he is categorizing anger as not different from powerful. So based on this, my question is, how powerful?
Oh,
Powerful in what way?
You're talking about powerful anger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Soma is categorizing anger as being not different from powerful. So my question is, how powerful? Powerful in what way? Powerful as capable of destroying me in the ultimate sense, if I may say it.
Yes, I mean destroying. Well, you're indestructible. You're eternal. You're a spirit soul. So let's clear that up right away. But I'm the one who inquires into self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger, right? Which awakens, transcends the influence of the modes of nature. Well, I mean, haven't you ever experienced that? In other words, if I remember, if I may, recall my early life, when I was a kid, I had an older brother. He was 4.5 years older than me. So one evening, I don't know, I forget how it got it, but we got into this huge fight, and I was destroying things that were dear to him, and he was destroying things that were dear to me. Anyway, I'm not getting into detail, but it came down to the point where he was about ready to destroy me. And just at that moment, he was overwhelmed with anger, and I was overwhelmed with fear, because he was 4 years older than me. I was just a little kid, and he was 12 years old. So just at that point, my father came in to the apartment and saved my life. I mean, I could have died, and I was so thankful. He said, "No, cool down." So the point is that anger is just like a fire. Fire can start small, but if it's not put out, it can become a forest fire. So it's very dangerous. So here he's saying one who inquires into self-realization and thus subdues his powerful anger. So there's a big step there. In other words, they inquired. They got the mercy of Lord Shiva, and they've been chanting this mantra for 10,000 years, But somehow or other, I don't know, speculate, they allowed this anger to overwhelm them. Now, the idea is that they had a certain duty to perform, which was to rule the earth and to propagate. And it seemed like these trees had made it impossible, to perform their duty. So that was the basis of their anger. But still, the anger took over, and they started destroying them and burning them all to ashes, when they didn't really deserve that. So the anger, if you let it take over your personality, it can become very, very powerful. All these wars that take place, they become concentrated collective anger, hate, anger, and fear is mixed in there. All these lower emotions can completely control. And I remember history was history of wars, right? So why is that? Because a certain group is thinking this other group is stopping my sense gratification, right? They're oppressing me, and us, and then whatever. So and it gets stoked. The anger gets stoked, just like today. This whole country is like. I'm not going to get into that. But by words, by propaganda, those who are skillful at it, they can stoke up the anger and mobilize people. Yeah, I'll join the army. We'll fight those other guys. So it's very, very powerful force, and devotees are meant to be peaceful. The first qualification of peace is to be free of material desire, right? Vihaya kama nyaksavam pumam chadinixpaha nimamonarhankasa shantamedagachati. If you fear a material desire, you also fear of possessiveness and a hankar. False. This is at the end of the second chapter. So it's really, so once you begin getting more attracted to Krishna, and you become satisfied just chanting Hare Krishna, you feel, sometimes you have that comes over you. This is great. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Rama. You don't want anything else, at least at that moment, and you can get a little taste of what it's like to be free of material desire. It's the material desire that results in anger, because material desire expands more and more, can never be satisfied. And so you find someone or something that is preventing you from being satisfied, and then you become angry, you go to war, you get injured. It all starts like that. So anger is a force of nature controlled by the mode of ignorance, really, and passion. It turns into ignorance. So once you're in those modes, just like once you're an addict, we had devotees. Unfortunately, they had been addicts, heroin addicts or something. They became devotees. They were going all right for a while, But it's always there, And if they get a little weak, boom, they can fall back into it. So we should be on the safe side and systematically, as I quoted those verses, cultivate the higher modes through the process of devotional service, become fixed in the mode of goodness and pure goodness, and become tolerant. The opposite of anger is tolerance. If you can tolerate, someone's insult or whatever like that, you can control that anger. So it's also a result of advancement in devotional service. Yeah, anger is powerful. Haven't you felt it? But if you inquire yourself,
I did. But the follow-up question is, Arjun did get angry, and he did engage himself in a fratricidal war. How do you explain that?
Because that's not anger. Anger wasn't caused by the modes of ignorance there, but that anger was like a tool that he was using in service to Krishna. Prabhupada became angry. Sometimes we did so much nonsense, but the next moment, he was the same person he was encouraging in devotional service. He was using it as like a scalpel to try to get rid of the impurity in the person. So that's advanced devotees can do that. Anger can be used in that. But when the anger, awakens in the heart, like suddenly, like in the body falling from the sky, and it's due to your own sense gratification being frustrated, then it's in this destructive force. It's just like music. Here, this is the Talya Trikena. Talya Trikena. The Talya Trikena is singing, dancing, and playing musical instruments. Now, just think of like raves and rock concerts and everything, drugs flowing out. Singing, dancing, and playing musical instruments, right? That can be a force for, a lot of illusion and darkness. But what is kirtan? Singing, dancing, playing musical instruments. Lord Chaitanya took those same three and he made it into the essential aspects of transcendence. And the result of Sankirtan is just the opposite. You don't get, covered by the modes of nature. You get uncovered by the modes of nature, you become blissful. So that same thing is there with anger. And even lust. Dharma varuddha bhuteshu kamasmi bhadatarsham. But Krishna says right in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, that I am sex life that is not against religious principles. When done in the proper way, as Prabhupada outlined, I won't get into detail. That's also service, raising wonderful children for Krishna, So therefore, that's the best I could do. Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much. As usual, you are amazing. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
All glories to Prabhupada. Haribo.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Dharmaraj. Hold on. Yes, Prabhu. Oh, yeah, this is very valuable. No.